Hi, Adam here, and welcome to this week's Virtual Regatta Top Tips. This week we're going to look at my top 5 tips on success around the racecourse. My first tip is around the start, and it's all about winning the start, and in particular winning the end of the start that you choose to start from. So we're going to join the race here with 40 seconds to go, and I've already assessed which end of the start line I want to start at. So using the circle in the top corner, I've identified that the port end, the yellow mark there, is the port end, and that's further upwind. So that's closer to the first mark, which means that's the biased end of the line. It also looks at the minute like there's a bit more pressure there as well. So I've identified that I want to start at the port end. So my tactic now is to try and win that port end or get the best start off that port end. So what I'm doing now is I'm just sailing down, keeping down near this end, assessing how many boats are looking to start from this end, and trying to control this end and dominate this end of the line. So 25 seconds to go, I've tacked in. There's a boat there, however, it doesn't seem to be causing me any problems. It's gone past, so I'm the furthest to the port end at the minute. So I'm going to just slow my boat down there, keep looking at the top left corner to see no one's trying to sneak underneath me, and just control my timing coming up to the start here. Crucially, I don't want to be over. So just as we're coming in here with 1 second to go, I just pause it there, and I just want to highlight that you don't want to be right on the line. So you'll see there's a dark red line here. There's also a little bit of the sort of checkered box the other side of that line, and that's probably just to emphasize that you need to be a tiny bit behind the line so you're not over. What I've also made sure I've done here is I've accelerated prior to the start gun, so I'm already sheeted in, going fast with no boats to leeward. So here we go, start gun goes, and I've won that port end, and I can now tack across and control the fleet. So top tip number 1 for me is win the end of the start line that you choose to start from. So here we're just going to have a quick look at another start in relation to top tip number 1. And what I wanted to highlight here was when I say win the port end, what I mean is get the best start off that port end. So that doesn't always mean be in the boat closest to the port end, as we'll see here. So what I'm doing here with just over 30 seconds to go is I've already decided that the port end is biased. And now I'm just looking at which other boats are around and how aggressive those boats are appearing to be. So there's a few boats down here. I'm just going to tack over and get into the preparation. And I can see there's 2 boats to leeward of me that look like they're trying to go for that port end. There's also some boats here that could be trying to do the same thing. So now my focus is going to switch to being a bit cautious, getting space to leeward, not battling with those boats, keeping space to leeward so I can accelerate and have more speed off the start while they battle. So I'll go now, they're battling at the port end, and there goes the gun. One's got a penalty, the other one was too slow coming off the line because they were trying to pinch around that port end, and it's allowed me to roll over the top of them and win that port end start line. I can now tack over and control the fleet from there. So top tip number 2 is all about looking for the pressure and keeping in that pressure, particularly downwind. So what I usually do here, I get around the windward mark, I'll then take a look up to windward. So I'll scroll my screen and I'll look up to windward. And what I can see here is in the middle, there seems to be a bit darker patch of wind, seems to be a bit more pressure. It looks fairly light out to the other side and fairly light on this side. So both sides seem fairly low pressure on this downwind leg, but the centre of it seems like it's got most pressure. And this is also backed up by what's going on the course, which you can see in this circle here. So you can see there's pressure down the centre on the course as well. However, it is always worth looking upwind because the circle only shows you to the top of the race course. It doesn't show you above the race course, and by scrolling round I can have a look at what's not just on the race course but what's coming down to the race course as well. So I've seen here the pressure is stronger in the middle, so this run is all going to be about staying in the middle of the course and staying in that pressure. So I've popped the kite up there, jibe over, have another look. Yep, still looks windiest in the middle, so I'll go a little bit further and I'll probably jibe back and just slowly make my way down this the middle of the course, protecting my position. To reinforce top tip number 2, I'm just going to switch fleets to the 49er here and have a look at a race where I'm in the pack a bit. So I'm stuck in 7th with one leg to go. So this is the reach across the top, and as you can see, just looking at the screen here, it would look like there's more pressure on the right hand side of this circle. So that would suggest jibing off. However, we've not looked to windward to confirm if that's the case yet. So we'll see how this unfolds. So the first 3 boats in front of me here, I'm in 7th currently. These 3 boats all jibe off for that pressure. However, what I'm going to do is just pop the kite and have a quick look behind me. And as you can see there, when I look behind me, there was slightly more, looked like there was a slightly more pressure on the other side of the course, interestingly, or for sure a similar amount. So as you can see, the water's all looking very dark. So there's no reason for me to jibe off because the pressure looks really good on this side of the course. So I've decided to split from these boats, stay in the pressure on this side and see how that plays out. So again, keep looking behind me to check that I've still got pressure. Head off in this way, not being affected by other boats because they've gone for what they thought was the best pressure. Again, looking behind me here, and it still looks best on this side. And then we'll see how that unfolds. So I'm just going to fast forward to the finish. So here we go, coming into the finish. Looking pretty tight, but sticking in that pressure seems to be paying off for me, as we're just going to jibe here, and I'm going to slot in 4th place. So don't always be taken just by the circle in the top left. Have a look further upwind as well. Top tip number 3 is all about ley lines. What I find is people, and this is across all classes, quite often overstand the ley lines and end up reaching into the windward mark. So what I try and do where possible is the final part of the beat, I like to approach on port just below the port ley line. What this allows me to do is tack underneath and inside any boats that have overstood. So taking advantage of any slight mistakes they've made by sailing on too far. So what we'll see here is there's at least 2 boats overstood here. So the green boat and the turquoise boat are both overstood. Probably ahead of me at this point, but I'm going to try and sneak inside them coming into the mark and pick my spot to tack in. So I think I'm just going to get ahead of this white boat, and then I'm going to tack right on the ley line there and sneak inside those boats that have overstood. Also, the pink boat is failing to keep clear to windward, so picks up a bit of a penalty there, unfortunately. But that, for me, has gained me a few places there just by coming in late on the port ley line and tacking inside those overstood boats. Top tip number 4 is all about mark rounding. And like in real life, the main aim of any mark roundings I do is in wide, out tight. That's not always possible with other boats around, just like real life, but the technique is still the same that I'm looking to do. Just before I get into this, I like using the phone to play the game. So what I do is when I'm going around marks, I don't tap the arrows to do the steering. I leave my finger down on it until I've headed up to the right angle. So that's just one way that I really quickly head up to wind, is not tapping the screen, it's just leaving my finger on the arrows as I head up. So with a third of the leg to go here, I've already made my decision on which mark I'm going to go around. It's going to be the left hand one, as you can see on the screen here, and the right hand one if you're looking at the top left circle. The reason for that is, if you can see, it's quite small, but the right hand side one here is slightly further upwind, which means it's slightly the favoured side of the gate to go around. So what we'll do is we'll watch this unfold. I'm going to try and get as tight an exit to the mark as possible, and that's going to give me the best position heading upwind. I see a lot of boats losing out through a bad mark rounding. So I've got this boat inside me. I am concerned about it, but I'm going to let him go round. I jibe, press to take my kite down, and then in wide and head up really tight to get that nice tight exit. The boat ahead has already had a good mark rounding, but that does give me options to tack off there. If I'd have had a poor mark rounding, I'd have been in his dirty air already and struggling straight away. So really tight mark rounding is really important. So we'll just look at that again, but coming in on port this time. One thing to add is I'm also considering what tack I want to be on coming out of the mark. So heading into this mark, I can see that the burgees, the wind indicators in the top left, are showing that the wind angle is sort of north-northeast-ish, which is suggesting there's currently a starboard lift on the course. So my thoughts are I want to get a good mark round in and tack off as soon as possible. I'm going for the same mark this time for similar reasons, so the left-hand side mark as we look at it. I have got some boats coming in on the inside here though, so I've just got to be mindful of them. The green boat's picked up a penalty, so I'm not concerned about him. So I jibe at a wide angle, take the kite down, and a tight exit there, going straight into attack, which is what I'd planned to do beforehand. And we can see here how I was sort of 6th or 7th coming down that run, but I've managed to convert that into 2nd place coming up this beat, purely through having a tighter mark round in and than the other boats, and then flicking straight onto the tack that I wanted to get onto. So finally, top tip number 5 is all about keeping it clean and not picking up any penalties. So in this scenario here, I've had a bad start. I've got out to the right hand side of the course and I've broke all my rules. I'm overstood and just in bad shape, and you can see I'm currently in 13th position. However, there's a lot of boats ahead of me. So I suspect there's a lot of boats going to pick up some penalties. So my aim here is to avoid those penalties and just get onto the run in a safe position. And I think if I do that, I'm going to make some places up. So before we start into this sequence, it's just important to mention you'll see boats when you get close to them. This is with a non-VIP account. You'll see a red circle go around some boats. What that means is they're the right-of-way boat at the minute. So if you make contact with a boat that has a red circle around them, you'll be picking up a penalty. So if you're near a boat with a red circle, avoid it is the key message here. So we'll just watch this unfold and you'll see what I mean. So loads of boats coming here. I'm currently bad shape 13th. We can see there's already some boats that are getting red circles around, so that's warning me that they are the right-of-way boat. So we can see this one here. Yeah, loads of boats there. So I'm just trying to avoid all these boats with the red circles around, because that would instantly give me a 10-second penalty, which I do not want. Again, coming into the mark here, loads of boats with those circles, so I'm just trying to avoid everyone, keep it clean and get around the mark. And you can see I've managed to get up to 7th place already there. So just by avoiding everyone, I've picked up loads of places on that leg. So I've just switched to the 49er here, and I've switched to a VIP account. The reason for this was just to show you the difference with the rules and what a VIP account holder sees, which makes it marginally easier for them to know if they're going to pick up penalties or not. So like with a non-VIP account, a boat that has the right of way will have a red circle around it, so you want to avoid those boats. However, if that circle turns green, that means you are now the right-of-way boat, so they need to avoid you. So it just helps, especially in start situations, you know which boats you need to keep clear of and which boats are needing to keep clear of you. So I'll just watch this start unfold, and you'll see how there'll be lots of different coloured circles. Red, I'm trying to stay clear of. Green, I'm not really bothered about. So here we go, there's a green circle boat coming inside me here, so he's not got rights over me at the minute. Now he has, so I've got to stay clear of him. Again, the circles keep changing here, so it keeps changing depending on who's got the right in that particular moment of time. And then off we go. So yeah, that was just a quick one again. Same rules apply, keep it clean, keep out of the way for the best result. But VIP account holders have got it slightly easier knowing who they need to keep clear of and who they don't. So that's it from me this week. Just to recap on my top 5 tips for success around the race course. Number 1, win your end of the start line. Number 2, check for wind further up the course, not just on the race course. Ley lines, don't overstand. Mark rounding, get those leeward mark roundings really tight on the exit. And finally, keep it clean and avoid picking up penalties. So I hope that's been useful this week. If you like the video and the content, please like, share and subscribe to the RYA YouTube channel.